Welcome everyone. My name is Kieran, and today we are going to be focusing on a really useful tool for academic writing called nominalisation. So, academic writing is expected to sound formal, objective, and precise, and nominalisation is one way of achieving that. So, in this session, I'll explain what it is, why it is important, and how you can use it effectively in your own writing. So by the end of this short workshop, you should be able to do three things. First, you'll understand what nominalization is and why it's useful in academic writing. Second, you'll be able to recognize examples of nominalization when you see them in text. And third, you'll practice using nominalization yourself to make your own writing sound more formal and objective. So this won't just be theory, we'll look at some examples and some short activities along the way that should be useful for you. So what exactly is nominalization? Well, in simple terms, it's the process of changing verbs or adjectives into nouns. Doing this usually makes our writing sound more formal and more abstract. So let's have a look at this first example we have on the screen, which is they decided to postpone the meeting. That sentence is clear and direct, but if we want to change it into a nominalization, it would become their decision was the postponement of the meeting. So notice how the action decided is turned into the noun decision, and the action postpone is turned into the noun postponement. We've also got another example with an adjective this time. The results were different. Now that's straightforward, but we can turn different into the noun difference to make it sound more formal again. There was a difference in the result. So as you can imagine, both versions are correct, but the second one, with nominalization, sounds more academic. And that's the effect that nominalization has. It makes things feel more academic. So nominalization often follows some clear patterns. Many verbs can be turned into nouns, like decide becoming decision, agree becoming agreement, and fail becoming failure. The same goes for adjectives. Strong becomes strength, different becomes difference, and possible becomes possibility. So you will notice some common endings when this happens, such as tion, meant, your, th, itty, and ent. So these are the clues that you're looking at a nominalized form. So when you're reading academic articles, look out for words with these endings. They're often the result of nominalization. So why is nominalization so useful in academic writing? Well, first, it creates a more formal tone, which is expected in academic work. And second, it helps us make our writing more objective. Instead of focusing on who did something, we can focus on the concept or the outcome itself. And thirdly, it allows us to present ideas more concisely and in a more abstract way. So take this example that we've got on the screen. Scientists discovered the chemical reacts strongly. That's fine, but it feels very everyday in its style. So if we nominalize, we get the discovery of the strong chemical reaction, yada yada. So this version focuses less on the scientists and more on the concept of discovery and reaction, which is what we usually want in academic writing. Nominalization, like we've mentioned before, is very common in academic writing. You'll see it all the time in textbooks, journals, articles, research reports. So let's look at some examples. So the company failed to meet targets. That's simple and clear, but we could change it to the company's failure to meet targets. Again, the action failed becomes the noun failure. And here's another example. The economy grew quickly becomes rapid growth of the economy. So notice how in each case the focus has shifted away from an action towards the idea itself, failure or growth. So that is why academic writers use nominalization so often. It makes the text sound more formal, more abstract, and focused on ideas rather than people. But of course, it is possible to overuse nominalization. Too much of it can make writing heavy and difficult to follow. Another problem is it can hide the subject, the person or the thing doing that action, which makes sentences vague. So here's an example. The implementation of the introduction of the policy led to the reduction of the incident. When you read it aloud, it sounds very clunky and overloaded with nouns. So this is what happens if we nominalize too much. The lesson here then is that nominalization is a powerful tool, but it needs to be used in balance with other structures to keep writing clear. So let's try a short activity. Which sentence here is more nominalized? Is it sentence 1, the researchers analyzed the data carefully? Or is it sentence 2, the analysis of the data was carried out carefully? So have a little think. Which one is it? Well, the second sentence is the one that uses nominalization. So instead of analyzed, we have the noun analysis. But now let's try transforming some sentences ourselves. So we've got 3 basic sentences here. The committee decided to close the school, the team failed to complete the task, and the scientists discovered that the drug improved memory. So what you might like to do here is pause the video, write down a couple of ideas of how you would rewrite these sentences using nominalization, and in a second we'll have a look at some possible ways to rewrite them. Okay, so remember, pause the video and come back in a couple of seconds. Okay, so hopefully you've done that activity there. So some possible ideas you could have are: the committee's decision was the closure of the school. The second one would be the team's failure to complete the task. And lastly, the third one would be the scientists' discovery was that the drug led to an improvement in memory. So we've seen multiple occasions there where verbs or adjectives have been turned into nouns. So here's a bit of a longer task for you. So we have a short paragraph here. The government increased taxes last year. This made people angry. The economy improved slightly because people spent less money on imports. So that's a fine paragraph on its own, but your task here is to rewrite this paragraph in a more academic tone by using nominalization. So again, pause the video, take maybe 3 or 4 minutes to make some changes, think about which verbs or adjectives can be turned into nouns. So then you can unpause the video. We'll look at the next slide where we can see an example. Okay. So let's look at one possible rewrite here. So it would be: the government's increase in taxation last year caused widespread anger. The slight improvement of the economy was linked to reduction in spending on imports. So notice how increased becomes increase, angry becomes anger, improved becomes improvement. So the tone shifts immediately from casual and everyday to more academic and abstract. So remind yourselves that there's not just one correct answer here. The key is to make choices that increase formality and focus on concepts rather than actions. So here are some quick tips to keep in mind. So first of all, always look for verbs or adjectives in your writing that could be turned into nouns. Second, remember that nominalization is especially useful when summarizing research findings. So instead of saying the survey found, you could say the study's findings. And finally, don't overdo it. A balance between verbs and nominalizations makes for the clearest, most effective writing. To summarize then, nominalization means turning verbs and adjectives into nouns. It makes it more formal, academic, and objective, and that's why it's so useful for your assignments. But be careful, if you use it too much, your writing will become heavy and difficult to read, and the key point there is a little bit of balance between the two. So I'll leave you with one final suggestion for practice. Take a paragraph from your own writing, identify the verbs and adjectives, and experiment with turning some of them into nouns. After that, compare the tone of the new paragraph with the old one, and you'll see very quickly how much more formal and academic your work sounds when you use nominalization effectively. Okay, so Thanks everybody for attending this very short workshop on nominalization today. I hope it was useful for you, and I hope to see you all again in the future. Okay, bye-bye.